Hey, welcome back to the Build It Basement. Once again, I'm Kerm, and today we're going to be finishing up on part 3, of our Stealthburner build. Today we're going to be installing the Neopixels. We're going to install the hot end fan, the part cooling fan, basically the standard build of that Voron Stealthburner. In the next video, we're going to do a little bit more than that, but for today, that's what we're doing, so check it out.
All right, so Stealthburner, kind of the prerequisite if you're building a stock Trident, or pretty much any Voron for that matter, you know, whether it be a Trident or a 2.4 or a switch wire. Even the Voron Zero has a little miniature version. So let's look at this real quick. Basic outline of what we're working with. Model supports. So one thing to make note of here is that this model, when you print it, will have supports in it. I've gone ahead and kind of trimmed these off a little bit, but you'll find supports where they're outlined in blue, which is one here. There are supports here. There's also supports over here that you don't really see in the drawing. And then there are supports here, right there, and a support right here. So those are all places you're going to want to trim those out, or at least break them. You don't necessarily have to trim out, but you have to break them so you can get your wires through. All right, so Neopixels or adjustable LEDs. You can make your own. You can buy these units one by one and solder them together. They are directional, meaning that you do have to solder them in a certain direction where you have an in and an output. So keep that in mind if you are building your own. There are 3 on here. One's going to go behind our logo, which will normally be a Voron logo. Talk about that in a second. And then you have 2 here that are going to produce light, basically your nozzle is. You can see your nozzle, see how you're printing. So pretty much you have power and a signal coming in here. So power and signal goes to the first one, to the second one, to the third one. And as long as you understand you have 3 here and they're in series, when you're doing software definitions of what colors those will be or how they'll be lit up in Clipper, you can basically modify this to whatever you want and do some fun special effects here. So roundabout way, that's pretty much what I'm telling you here. Okay, so carrier and diffuser. So because I'm not using the standard Voron version, which has the Voron logo on it, I have my own Ghost Trident logo that I made, which is a trident upside down that looks like a ghost. I can't use the standard diffuser that comes with this because the diffuser actually slides inside of that. So what I've gone and done is I've modified the standard diffuser and I've kind of flattened it out, made it a little bit thicker so that I can put it in here, make it pretty easy. So that is the first LED you're going to wind up putting in, and I kind of show you putting in here and then doing that. Okay, so first one off of the branch here, the one coming in with the power wire. And the way these work out is they kind of slide into the carrier with the wires facing away, and they should be firm, but they shouldn't require a ton of pressure to get them in. So I like to, they show this a little differently here. They show putting them in, for some reason, upside down and all this weirdness going on here. I like to start with the one in the carriage first, and I do have a reason. I'll show you here in a second, as soon as I get my diffuser in there, like that. This one needs to slide in directly that way. So if you put this in first, it kind of sets you up to put everything else in there the way it needs to go. I like to just make sure everything's in there tight, give it a little push. That's in there like that. The way I like to do it now is I basically will take my control wire that's here and I will run it up this side over here because it's real close. And that should, for the most part, kind of pop in there. I have to finagle it a little bit, but it should go in pretty easily. And up here in the top as well. So you wind up with are your wires going through and around like that. You want to block off those holes. That's where your air is going to come in through your ducting for your part cooling. And you don't want to be in the way up here because you can have a lot going on up there. So from there, I like to run my wires, and this is different than what they show you in the manual. If you'd like to follow the manual, go right ahead. But I'm just showing you how I've done it over the past. On the other ones I've built, this is my preferred way of doing it. I'm not saying it's right, but it works for me. So if you're having trouble, maybe you try it this way. So basically, I've gone ahead and run my wire from there over to here underneath that, which is basically a spring-loaded fan holder eventually. And then push these wires through that. And then we have this happening right here. And the way I like to do this one is to basically just fold it around and slide it in. You do want to be careful with these. It is very easy to break the solder joints on these lights. So actually, as you put these in, you should check each solder point. Make sure you don't have any broken wires. I'm throwing some glasses here so I can look at these really good. And if you get to the point where you're actually playing with your lighting on these and you see that you do not have lighting unexplicitly, not sure what's going on, it's probably because you have a broken wire or a broken solder joint. I'm looking right here. It's not broken, but those solder points are really close to each other. Kind of makes me scared, but we'll make it work. Okay, so let's get this in. Nice and straight, like so. We should be able to push that all the way in, so it's down there. And then I run this wire over to here. Like so. And then, now that I have that done, I'll go ahead and poke these wires down through. And for the most part, these lights they're functional in the sense that they provide light to the workspace when you're printing, but they're not required to print. So if for whatever reason you're finding this extremely frustrating, or you have a broken one, or you forgot to buy these, or something like that, you could go on with the build without these. These are not going to hold you up from having a printer that works. So it goes in there, and then this one, usually loop these around a little bit, and then it's gonna be extremely hard to show on camera here, but basically I pass these underneath this side hold here. There we go. And then I should be able to get them all the way like that. Now, my reasoning for doing it the way I do it, meaning running all the wiring the way I do as opposed to the way they show it, is because I've done a few builds with nozzle cams. And when you use nozzle cams, they originally had you put the module on the outside of the board. or the outside of the head. I like to do it on the inside. So I wound up actually running my ribbon cable all the way through here and up this way as well. So I basically had this area to run that additional wiring through as opposed to this way. So I needed this space for my ribbon cable. So that's why I run them that way. But it works out pretty well for me. I can't think of much of a negative reason for doing it or not doing it that way. So there you go. All right, that's that. Diffuser, we already did that. We already put the diffuser in where I put that LED in. We're pretty good there. And there is the wiring they're showing as they're showing it now. What they're showing basically is inserting this guy, well, actually this guy first, and then that guy, and then coming around. So my numbering will be slightly different. Whereas on there, it will be basically 1, 2, 3. On mine, it will be 1, 2, 3. Not a big deal. Something you can really fix in software or modify in software pretty quickly, really easily. A couple additional supports are in there. This one they're talking about is up here. And they're also talking about these fan supports that are down here. Again, already broken up. And there's also one on the other side over here, which is just vaguely in blue here. It's hard to show, so they're barely showing it. So fans. All right, so a little bit about fans. So you'll notice on their fan, up here in the top left-hand corner on their fan, they show arrows showing down and out. Some fans have that, some fans do not. So fans, good, you know, not good fans, some fans will have actual arrows on them that point in the direction of wind blow. Now, if you don't have that on your fan, like this one does not have that, the big thing to keep in mind is that the air on a fan tends to 98% of the time go from the open area, meaning there's no bracing or anything, to the area with the bracing. So airflow goes from here that way. So from top to bottom as shown here, or from here to here shown this way. So what we need to do is make sure that our airflow is basically coming from the outside of our stealth burner going towards our hot end, or actually our hot end cool end to do cooling. This right here, I don't know if they show you where they want the wire on this specifically. Rotate the fan so the wires exit top of the air is pushed inwards. Top and the air is pushed inwards. Okay. So basically they're showing it going in like this, which is fine. You can do that. There's a space up here for that. You can also put it in like this. It'll be a little bit more choked up, but we'll go ahead and put it the way they want. So we're basically going to put it like this for right now. And we're going to slide this up in pretty much like so, holding that wire towards the top section because there is a space up there to put that. But we will make sure that the wire does not wind up underneath the fan. And we should be able to snap that in place with a little luck, like so. Although, seems like our fan is caught up a little bit. So I think there's a little bit of pressure happening to our fan, stopping it from moving, probably because this is pushing against it. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this. This is the way I tend to do it anyways, because we have a big gap over here. And as opposed to the fan coming straight out the top, I'm going to push the fan in like so. Yep, that moves way more freely. And then my wirings are already over in this corner for putting it up and through the cavity here to hold the wiring once this is assembled. These blunt tip tweezers work really well with this type of stuff. So if you don't have a pair, you may want to get a pair. So there we go. So at this point we have our fan and our LED wiring up here in the top, because they are going to be connecting to a PCB board up here in the top. That. All right. Wiring, yep, sure. Again, with mine, it was facing out the top, but it was kind of catching on. Wasn't a big fan of it, so I put it back the way I normally do it. And it holds it nice and snug too. Shouldn't be able to go anywhere. All right, let's modify some fans. So this little, I forget what you call it. I call it a squirrel fan, but there's no name for it. Centrifugal fan or whatever it is. Basically a blower fan. That's what it is. We're gonna have to pull this apart because we only need one half of it. And when I say half, I mean we don't need both sides. It has this side and it has this side. We're gonna be taking one of these sides off. So there's little clips here on the side. You just kind of want to get in there and declip it. So. So that leaves us with a blower like so. And we're going to also be cutting off these mounting holes right here on the sides. Now, there's a trimming jig that you can do for this. It says, I've never used a trimming jig. The way I normally do it, and you can do it two ways, is to heat it up. I'll do one way and one the other way. So if you have a reflow or a relatively precision hot air gun, and you get it up to a decent temperature, heat up your blade, heat up your plastic a little bit, heat everything up a little bit, you know, get it all warmed up. And basically what we're looking to do is get to a point where the plastic kind of cuts pretty easy. Doesn't take a lot. You can cut it off like that. And then if you want to trim it up a little bit more, you can do so. That. The other method is to use something like a Dremel tool. Like this guy. And pretty much just come in here and cut it off. I'm running this pretty slow. Because more so than cutting it, I'm actually looking to melt it off. I'm kind of just melting through the plastic a little bit as I go. And then if you wind up with a little bit extra, you can go in here and clean that up a little bit. Make it nice. Like so. A little bit of dust here. If you're concerned about it, well, make sure you wear safety glasses, and if you're concerned about it, you can also wear something on your face as well, respirator of some sort. So here we go. We have our decased fan with the nubs taken off, the mounting nubs. So that brings us here to back to our part, and you'll see that there is a notable similarity between the two parts. And as you may imagine, that's 100% on purpose. So you can, and sometimes I do, pull these wires out of this holder that is here. The only problem is, and I'm not going to try too hard, but this one is coming up pretty easy, is if you do that, then your strain, if these wires get pulled, is directly on these solder joints, and they're not very strong. So if you can, I suggest you leave that in there like that. I don't know if the instructions are going to say differently here in a moment, but it's just a suggestion. If you can, I would, but that should snap into place. Should. Do the round part first. Oh, you know what we got? We still have these little mounting spots for the top section when it was on there. Let's take those off as well. All right, that should be better. There we go. Now have that fan in place. So we have both fans. They both turn freely, which is a plus. And all the wiring's up there. So there we go. So M3x6 flathead screws are going to hold that in. And again, this is a plastic direct in thing, so don't go crazy. And I believe these are going to be coming out anyways, because we're going to be putting a circuit board on here, and circuit board's going to get mounted using the same screw holes, but maybe you're not. There's that. So that would be your standard Voron Stealthburner so far.